I'm good, John.
You're good?
Yes, sir.
Well, I gotta leave. So,
Yeah. Short interview. That was.
it became a household name. Everybody knew CCM. Every kid knew CCM. One of the reasons they did is CCM, along with the bicycles, developed a children's line of tricycles, wagons, kiddie cars, little kiddie car, which those things are still around, but they've changed tremendously in construction and everything because of plastics. But anyway, little kids, CCM tricycles were very, very important to kids. And there was an old saying that, you know, when kids, it was a saying that, what did the kid want for Christmas? It was something from CCM, be it skates or a tricycle or a bicycle or what have you. And so CCM had a great relationship with the younger generation. And I really felt, it had nothing to do with me, that I really felt that our advertising thrust in those early days was directed to children, because we used to make tens of thousands of blotters, which we distributed to schools across Canada. Back in the days when you wrote with pen and ink, no such thing as a ballpoint pen, and the blotters were big, and comic books. And the other really big thing was school book covers. Do you remember you used to get the brown things that you folded up to protect your book on a hardcover book? You guys are young, you might not remember that. But we made thousands of those and gave them away too. But of course they were plastered with CCM, but they were used by the kids. CCM at one time actually manufactured more of a bicycle than any bicycle factory in the world that I knew of, and I knew a lot of them. More so than the English bicycles or anything else, because we made our own spokes and nipples, and very few bicycle companies did that. We made all our own rims, our own wheels. Very few did that. As a matter of fact, let me flip it over. The only part of the bicycle that CCM did not make was the saddles, the rubber handlebar grips, the chain, and the tires and tubes. They were all made exclusively in my day by Dunlop, because we had exclusive distribution of Dunlop tires and tubes. At the very, very upper end, being Tackaberry, CCM in the winter goods was doing very, very well. But in the mass market, we were not. We were in competition with Bauer, and Mr. Bauer, whom I knew not so well, but I knew his son very well, made the boots and bought the skates, but he made the boots, and he was a master of making excellent boots at excellent prices up in Kitchener. But he had that market. Well, we wanted to get into the mass market far more than we were. And it was decided at that time, I'm happy to say, that our thrust was going to be to have a spokesman, to have somebody who was well known. So much of that is done today in sporting goods, but it was quite unique in those days. So I approached Bobby Hull and signed him on an endorsement contract to feature and promote CCM skates, boots, hockey sticks, hockey equipment, everything. And I almost got fired over it because I signed him to a $25,000 a year contract, which was absolutely unheard of in those days. And you know, $25,000 for some of these guys today wouldn't take them over to lunch. But he signed it, but the board of directors took great exception to this as being foolish money being spent. So luckily I survived that one. And Bobby, we brought out a whole new Bobby Hull line of signature skates and what have you. And he was a great spokesman because he's very charismatic. He was the Golden Jet. He was a very good looking. And everywhere he went, he really related to people. He liked people and they loved him, and he was one of the greatest hockey players. Well, he was the greatest of his time, but one of the greatest in the NHL has ever seen. When I was in my earlier, days at CCM, not all that early, I lived in Toronto Island, and the factory was in Weston. I drove out the lakeshore every day to CCM and stopped at the old Downy Flake donut shop every morning for a cup of coffee or something, and half the Toronto Maple Leaf team was in there, Turk Broda, all these guys, because they're all driving trucks for Connie Smythe's sand pit. And they didn't make enough money they had to have a job in the summertime, and here were they playing for the best hockey team in the world, and yet they weren't making enough money to carry them over the summer. But it was a different time, and there were so few teams. It was it was part of my life, but I knew every single player by name in the NHL, and you know pretty well their stats and all the rest of it. I hate to tell you, I still love hockey. I think it's the greatest game in the world, but I'd have trouble naming more than 3 players on the Toronto Maple Leafs. One of the reasons why, of course, is I don't speak Russian, but it's different, and the league's so big with so many teams. There's so many players. There's a different sense. At one time, I know we were around 900 employees in Weston. We were making close to 3,000 bicycles a day on a very, very highly sophisticated assembly line, automotive type assembly line. But you know, there are a nucleus of people in that company that they never thought of being anywhere else but CCM. CCM was part of their life. The Christmas parties and the kids and the foreman's club we had, and no, but there's a real sense of family sense. We had a marvelous tool shop, which I know I've mentioned to you before, with people like Gus Chard and George Argo and other people. CCM was their life.